So the power of forgiveness. And I have to tell you, this is a really kind of a touchy subject for me because it's going to be about my mom. And my mom is my best friend. I talk to her every day. And to make matters worse, she's actually in the hospital right now at the time of this video. So it's a tough one to do, but also because of the situation right now with my mom and her being ill, and me being so grateful for the fact of how close we are, I think it's really important that I do this right now for you. And quite frankly, for me. The power of forgiveness. Here's the thing about forgiveness is that when you forgive somebody, it isn't even for the person, right? You need to understand this because sometimes people are like, I won't forgive them because then it means, that I'm saying what they did was okay. That is not the case. When you forgive somebody, you're not giving them permission to continue to do it. You're not even saying that what they did was okay, and that it was right for them to do what they did. When you forgive somebody, you are just not letting that action that happened to you control you. I want you to think about it, right? When you're angry with somebody, when you hold on a grudge and you haven't forgiven them, you think about it a lot and it takes up a lot of mental space in your mind, right? And quite frankly, not forgiving them, they don't care. They don't even probably a lot of times sometimes they don't even know what they did hurt you. A lot of times they do, but a lot of times some things that happen to us, the person who did it doesn't have any remorse or guilt because they're just not that type of person. They don't even acknowledge their own actions. So by us not forgiving them, the only person that it truly, really does hurt is ourselves. It hurts us. I will give you an example. So my mom, when I was growing up, was very physically abusive to me. So much so that when I was turned 13, I started running away from home. And I lived in abandoned buildings. I lived on the streets. I lived in cars. I lived in RVs. At night when my parents and my friends, I would sleep at my friend's house and their parents didn't know, and I would sleep in the closet. And this went on for about a year until eventually I ended up in juvenile hall. And then from juvenile hall, I ended up in a group home for troubled girls. And then from there, I went to a foster home. So I haven't lived at home since I was 13. And the reason was because of the abuse from my mom. Now, when I got out of the foster home after a couple of years, I missed my family dearly. I'm very, very close to my family. It was almost like I lived in two families. I had this very loving mom who would do anything for me. And quite frankly, she still does to this day. But then at times she would snap and she was very physically abusive. And that abuse really psychologically affected me. It created, I had an eating disorder for 37 years. I'm not going to say it's her fault, but a lot of people that have eating disorders suffered from physical abuse. I was bulimic. A lot of people with that have physical abuse from a parent, they struggle with self-worth and feeling loved, and they have massive abandonment issues, quite frankly, and they struggle with self-worth. So I had a lot of issues that came from it, but I also had a great love for my mom, and my mom had a great love for me. I'm not going to get into her childhood, but she suffered and experienced way worse than I did at the hands of her father, and that, the cycle didn't stop with me when it came to physical abuse. But I went to my mom one day, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I went to her, I read her a letter, and I showed up one day at her home, and it took me 2 hours sitting in my car to even talk to her or go into the home. And when I went there, I just said, Mom, I need you to tell Dad what happened. I need you to tell the family because they think I just ran away because I wanted to party and have a good time. And the truth is I was running away because I was tired of the abuse. And my mom was so amazing. She cried and wept and apologized, and she went to counseling with me, and she paid for the counseling, and she helped me heal. She told the family what had happened. Now, this is not the case for most people, and I will tell you, I forgave her years and years ago, and I still do to this day. My mom is she's not the typical. A lot of times, especially with any kind of physical abuse, emotional, sexual abuse at the hands of a parent or a spouse or some type of abuser, they rarely admit to it, and they rarely take ownership of it. Many people that do that are narcissistic, and they just have deep-rooted problems, right? Thank goodness my mom wasn't that way, but my mom is one of the rare people, especially with something so severe, that acknowledged it and helped me with it, right? But even if she didn't own up to it and acknowledge it, I still would have forgiven her because I know that the mental anguish and heartache of me holding on to that resentment and that, you can call it what you want, hatred. And I mean, I suffered a lot. It was a huge loss. I I lost my family. I missed my dad. I missed my brothers. I missed my mom. I was completely taken out of my environment into a new one. I was in a foster home. I mean, everyone looked at me like I was this weird person because I was in a group home in a foster home. I was the troubled kid when I really wasn't. I was just in a bad situation. But not everyone has that. And so you have to think about what not forgiving somebody does, that hatred and that feeling that you get. And you're giving that other person so much power, right? They're the power of controlling your mental mind space, the power of still having control of you. And still, quite frankly, it's almost like they're still doing it to you until you can absolutely forgive the action, but you're not saying that it's okay. Forgive the person and let it go. When you hold on to that kind of emotion, you are ruining yourself. So the power in forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's not for them, it's for you. It 100% is for you. I remember probably about 3 years ago, I was at my mom's house and she just was sobbing. And she was like, I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I feel like because of it, it's, you're not going to make it into the new system, she calls it. They have a certain spiritual belief. And she takes complete ownership of me not being in the new system. And I just said, Mom, I said, first of all, you got to forgive yourself. You holding on to what happened is not helping you. And I forgive you. I believe that that experience I had growing up with you happened so that I could relate to other people, so I could help more people, so that I could show people that even with physical abuse and having the childhood that I did, and again, such a great childhood, and then oftentimes not, but it helped me be the person I am today. That's how I choose to look at that situation. And you can choose to do the same, whether the person has acknowledged what they've done to you or not. But by you holding on to that hatred, that resentment, that feeling of just never forgiving them, it's really affecting you more than anyone else. And it's taking up so much of your mental space and so much of the goodness in you. And it's keeping you from achieving anything and everything that you want. It's such a big deal. And again, you're not forgiving them. You're forgiving. You're just saying, I'm letting this go. I'm not letting this control me anymore. You're not saying the action was okay, right? Especially if they did not admit to it or own up to it or let you know how sorrowful they are. And first of all, let me just say that I am so sorry for that. And I mean that so much. I feel so honored that my mom took ownership, and I know it definitely helped me in my healing. But at my good old ripe age of 53, I will tell you that I have learned oftentimes I forgive and I forget, quite frankly, often. People will tell me things that have happened. I'm like, I don't remember. And because I just choose not to hold on to it because I know it doesn't serve me and it doesn't serve you either. So the power of forgiveness is helping you live a happier, more fulfilled life. The power in forgiveness is to be able to clear up that mental space that's consuming you. I mean, it's so ugly and icky to hate somebody it just is so horrible. Leave that with them and you live your life. So that's the power of forgiveness. So I hope this was helpful and I hope it struck a chord in somebody. And just remember one thing, by forgiving somebody, it's helping you. It's not saying what they did was okay, especially if they didn't own up to it. So thank you for watching. This was good for me and I hope it was good for you. And be sure to watch the next video. And if you think it was helpful and somebody can benefit from it, please share it and I'll see you next time.